Good morning. Hope you're doing well. So for today's video, I wanted to have a little discussion with you guys. Because I'll be honest, I have read some books that I thought were going to be much better, and I felt like they were a little, dare I say, overrated. In all seriousness though, these are very popular books that I've heard a ton of good reviews on that I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on because I feel like I'm definitely differing from the crowd here. I've got some different opinions on these books, so let's go ahead and get into it. This first book, I cannot watch a booktube video without seeing this mentioned, and it is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. I know, you guys are up in a tizzy, but let me explain myself. So this was what I consider like a YA fiction, and this whole plot line is basically following Addie Larue, who essentially sells her soul to the devil character in this book for a life of eternity. The catch though is no one remembers her, so she's not memorable whatsoever. It prevents her from forging any meaningful relationships in her life, which obviously if you have no meaningful relationships in your life, you're kind of alone. And the devil's essentially waiting for her to give up, and Addie Larue is just like, you know, joke's on you, even though I kind of sold my soul in the first place. Anyways, in this book, it goes back and forth between not only Addie Larue, you will follow her through basically 300 years of her life, but it also starts to evolve around another character in this book named Henry. I don't know, I don't want to spoil it for you guys. Yeah, I kind of have to spoil this for you guys if I'm gonna make my point. Henry is able to remember Addie because he also sold himself to the same devil, and his whole cross to bear, he is very enticing to everyone else around him, but that also means in a different way, he's not able to forge meaningful relationships because he feels like everyone else is enchanted by the spell instead of loving him or enjoying him as a person. My whole thing with like the whole selling your soul to the devil trope is fine. Like, I'm not tired of that whole plot line yet, so I don't necessarily think that's overplayed, but I just wasn't like super in love with the characters in this book. Now let's be honest, I don't have to love every character in a book for me to enjoy it, but I honestly kind of felt Henry was a little obnoxious. Is that a strong word? Now the reason why Henry ended up selling his soul was because the woman he was dating did not accept his proposal in marriage. And I don't know, I feel like that's just a little bit of a woe is me. Like, don't you think you should have a better reason to sell your soul than someone broke up with you? I don't know, maybe I'm being a little insensitive, but I'm like, dude, you've got a great group of friends, you've got, you know, your whole life ahead of you, and I know it sucks, like I can't even imagine someone turning me down if I wanted to marry them, but come on. It's definitely heartbreaking, but I don't know if it's like a sell my soul to the devil kind of heartbreaking. And I honestly felt like the only reason their relationship worked was because that thing that they had in common. I felt like the only reason Addie was even interested in Henry was because he could remember her. It wasn't like actually because he had all of these qualities she really appreciated and enjoyed. Like, he's a nice guy, he's cool, but like, this is a chick that's been living for 300 years, and I feel like she's got a lot to offer, so I didn't really find Henry that much of like a, I wasn't rooting for him, I guess. And I don't know if I was really rooting for Luke either. I was just kind of like, meh. I get why people like this book. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy reading it. What I'm saying is for seeing this everywhere, I just thought it would be a little bit stronger. So definitely maybe a little too YA for me. This might be a situation where it's like, it's not you, it's me. This next book is also a very popular one, and they're actually making a movie based off of this book, The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. Now, I actually love suspense and thriller books, so I was really excited when I saw that this was a really popular book, and I found this at a discount store, so I was even more like, score! I paid like $2 for this copy, so I was really rooting for it. So in this book, you follow Anna, who is an agoraphobic psychologist, and she basically spends her time playing chess, doing some online therapy, oh yeah, and doing a lot of boozing and pilling, if you know what I mean. And on top of that, she's a peeping Tom. The only reason that I think I didn't really get along with this book was because I feel like the plot line in this is kind of played, and I feel like there were definitely some holes in the plot that I was like, wait a minute, what happened to the downstairs neighbor? There was just a couple times that I was a little, I don't know, I felt like there was more areas to flesh out the plot, and A.J. Finn did not do that. Obviously for good reason, but I'm the type of person, like, I like everything sealed up at the end of a book. So yeah, this had a couple of those situations. As you read this book, you understand that Anna is suffering from PTSD and essentially contributes to her drinking and pill issue. But I don't know, I just felt like, again, it was like, all right, here we go. Here's another woman who had like something traumatic happen in her life, and then she's heavily reliant on drinking and pills, therefore no one believes her. And then, am I crazy? I felt like the police in this book were very unprofessional. Like, how she was being questioned was not how I would imagine a typical police questioning should go. Like, they were already suspicious of her. As I was reading this, I was like, what's going on with these cops or detectives? I was suspicious of them, if anything. So maybe if I hadn't read like Girl on a Train or like even watched Rear Window, I might have been fresh to the ideas behind this book, but because I feel like I've seen them play out so many times, I didn't really, you know, it was okay. Like I said, I enjoyed reading it. It was just a little slow in the beginning, and then finally when it picked up pace towards the end, I definitely wanted to know what happened, but this is like on everyone's must-read list. Everyone's read this. And I don't know, sometimes I feel crazy. I'm like, am I the only one who thinks this? I'm relating to Anna, I guess, in that sense. Feeling crazy. So this is actually a new book that I just got as a Christmas gift, and it is Piernie by Susanna Clarke. Now this was on my Christmas wish list because I love Greek mythology. I'm a big fan of the Song of Achilles, and I literally just finished Circe last night, so I'm trying to find other authors that have a similar writing style. When I read praise of this book, essentially this was being compared a lot to Madeline Miller's writing, as well as Neil Gaiman, who is another author that I enjoy reading. And so I was like, man, if it's a combination of like Neil Gaiman and Madeline Miller, I'm in for a treat. And it's not that, again, I didn't love this book. I just felt a little bit like this book was all over the place. So the way that this is told is through the eyes of the narrator, Piernie, through his journal entries. So at first it feels a little meandery, like, where are we going with this? And I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little confused, a little lost. And I do think that Susanna Clarke intends for you to feel a little lost, but I mean, sometimes I would set the book down and be like, what am I even reading? Then when you get towards the end of the book and some of the explanation of the labyrinth that Piernie is residing in, you're like, oh, I'm reading a magic book. I didn't realize I was reading a magic book. I forget the name of the police officer who came in and essentially saved, I know they called her 16 in the book, so I'm just gonna call her 16. I forget her real name. But anyways, and then 16 comes in out of nowhere and saves Piernie, and I just felt like a little random. Like, man, 16 must really love her job and be dedicated to literally go into an alternative universe and save this man. I just didn't see the motivation there for someone to do that. And again, she kind of just like came in out of nowhere and was like, I'm here to save the day, I'm the hero. And you're just like, where did you even come from? Oh, a portal? I just felt like there was no setup for that. Anyways, it wasn't that I didn't enjoy this. Again, it was one of those books like I finished. It was not a DNF for me. But I think my main qualm with this, it was just not what I was expecting, and I felt a little let down because the reviews of this on Goodreads are so good. Like, I literally thought when I got this, I was like, oh, it's a shoe and I'm gonna love it, and I just didn't. So maybe I was a little bit more critical because of that. Do you guys ever feel like that too, that you're maybe more critical of books when you see they have such high reviews? It's not that you didn't enjoy it or like it, you just expected it to be better? Maybe I should stop like relying so heavily on reviews. But how do you find books then? The last book that I'm gonna talk about in this video is a book that I actually read on my Kindle through Libby, and that is Educated. Now, I feel a little guilty not enjoying this book because I know, again, a lot of other people enjoyed it, and I felt like I was gonna get a lot more. Like, I do like to read biographical or autobiographical type content, or even like, you know, loosely based off someone's life, but Educated to me just seemed really out of left field sometimes. Even if you were to tell me it was a fictional book, which according to the author, Tara Westover, it's supposed to be a recounting of her life, it was crazy sometimes. The injuries some of the people in this book came back from without having any modern medical intervention seemed wild. I mean, there were car crash galores that people just walked away from. There was someone who got basically incinerated and didn't die of like massive hemorrhaging or infection, and then she was able to make it into like a very sought after university and additional highly accredited programs without ever experiencing traditional schooling. Again, I feel guilty because I don't want to doubt someone else's story or experience, but for me, I was just like, sometimes, I was like, this is wild. Absolutely wild. And sometimes she would just get beat down by her family or her life or her circumstances. So since the book was a little longer, it was just hard for me to read something that long that pertains to that type of theme. Gosh, poor thing. Like, this is rough for me to read emotionally. Anyways, so those are my most likely unpopular opinions on some very popular, highly rated books. I just want to also kind of sum up this video and say, obviously, these are my opinions. I have nothing against these authors or these books in particular. So again, it's a totally personal thing. They probably just were not for me. So if you're looking into any of these books, please don't get discouraged by this video. I'm just here saying, like, hey, if you've ever read a book and not agreed with what everyone else kind of thinks of the book, totally fine. I'm there with you. As always, I hope you guys are happy and healthy, and don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, share with friends and family, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.